In tonight's Fact or Fiction, we are looking into yet another claim about The Simpsons predicting a big news event. The story this time is that the iconic TV show eerily predicted the outbreak of the coronavirus.
Have you ever wondered if a cartoon could predict the future? Well, fans of The Simpsons certainly have, and with good reason. Over the years, The Simpsons has made many predictions that have strangely come true, from election outcomes to technological advancements. Now, with 2025 in view, the show has found its way back to the spotlight with predictions of possible conflict between the United States and China, along with other possible happenings in the coming year. Will the predictions be accurate once again? Join us as we reveal The Simpsons predictions for 2025 that will blow your mind. A potential conflict between the United States and China. In an episode of The Simpsons show from way back in 2007, there's a segment that uses humor to show a major global conflict. This part of the episode revealed a serious global war majorly affecting two countries. It started out calmly before erupting into chaos as the episode went on, leaving the town of Springfield in ruins. Homer, always the extra sensitive one, is seen urging his family to prepare for a large-scale attack on Springfield.
In the year 2031, and we're really gonna need some laughs then, after World War China.
And just in the background, the flag of America is seen floating in the air. As fighter jets appear firing missiles at the soldiers stationed not far from Homer's house. They were fully equipped for battle, and another flag was seen on the jets. The flags resembled a powerful weaponized country, China. Although some fans claim the flag looks nothing like China's, some feel The Simpsons has once again shown a possible occurrence in the future. But that's just the beginning. The long-running animated sitcom, The Simpsons, has long had a legendary reputation for seemingly predicting future events. From Donald Trump's presidency to the Disney-Fox merger, the show's unique way of capturing real-world happenings has earned it a place in pop culture history. It has also foreseen so many events that had actually come to pass, which pushes fans to believe the war scene shown in that episode could come true. The show had also previously predicted a war between Russia and Ukraine a few years back, which came true. This strange accuracy brings us to wonder what 2025 holds in store for the world if the US and China actually go to war. With The Simpsons drawing attention to the possibility of a conflict happening between the two countries in the coming year, another interesting situation soon popped up concerning a paranoid military general and a similar fear. Regarding the show's prediction of a war between the United States and China, it seems it's starting to happen and could worsen next year. A four-star Air Force general recently sent a memo to the officers he commands that predicts the US will be at war with China in the coming year and tells them to get ready to prepare by firing a clip at a target and aim for the head. In the memo obtained by NBC News, General Mike Minahan, head of Air Mobility Command, expressed his concern fueled by a gut feeling that the two nations would go to war come 2025. He laid out his goals for preparation, which included building a fortified, ready, capable, and agile joint force maneuver team and ready to fight and win inside the first island chain. The signed memo was addressed to all Air Wing commanders in Air Mobility Command and other Air Force operational commanders, and it ordered them to report all major efforts to prepare for the China fight to Minahan, but that's just the beginning. Minahan said in the memo that because both Taiwan and the US had presidential elections this year, the US would be distracted, and Chinese President Xi Jinping will have an opportunity to move on Taiwan. With that in mind, he directed all AMC personnel to fire a clip into a 7-meter target with the full understanding that focus and intent matters most. The command given to them was simple and straight to the point. Always aim for the head regardless of the situation at hand and shoot without hesitancy. The general also ordered all personnel to update their records and emergency contacts, just in case it was needed. In addition to all these, Minahan also directed all AMC personnel to consider their personal affairs and whether a visit should be scheduled with their servicing base legal office to ensure they are legally ready and prepared. With everything being put in place so quickly, it is obvious that Minahan intends for his team to be prepared going into 2025 and be ready for whatever would come with the year. Retired U.S. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis told Time in an interview that Minihan's words were things a person would say when they were getting ready to go to combat. Davis believes it is either Minihan knows something that no one else does, or he's just really trying to get everybody fired up. But one thing Davis seems sure of is Minihan's sudden switch is very out of the ordinary and should be treated with urgency and vivid attention. If war was really awaiting the U.S. in 2025, Davis urges the military to do as Minihan says, so the crisis would be quickly averted, or in the worst-case scenario, the war could turn around to favor the United States. In the meantime, a military buildup by both sides gathers pace. While the U.S. maintains a strong lead in aircraft carriers, nuclear-powered submarines, and larger ships, China's Navy is now the world's largest by raw numbers, and China is expected to expand its Navy by nearly 40% between 2020 and 2040, according to the U.S. Navy. Although it seems like Minihan might just have been triggered given the current political instability around the world, both the US and China appear to be gearing up for something big. Nonetheless, acquisition of more and advanced weapons could have no real significance in relation to the war, but with the Simpsons prediction pointing to a possible conflict, it could also mean war is on the horizon, and both nations are already making preparations for its arrival. Regardless of that, as scary as this prediction could turn out to be, let's hope it doesn't come true anytime soon, and that General Minihan's gut feeling remains just a feeling and does not become a reality. But do the Simpsons have other predictions for 2025? Let's find out. Technological advancement and takeover in 2025. As we approach 2025, speculation is running wild once again about what the Simpsons might have foretold for the future. Could we be on the brink of groundbreaking scientific discoveries? Or is the world heading toward unforeseen chaos? Either way, one thing is for sure. Simpsons' predictions for 2025 are crazy and have fans buzzing with excitement and curiosity. One very thrilling prediction for the coming year relates to technological advancement, and in this case, the use of virtual reality. The whole concept of virtual dining sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie, and if this prediction comes true, it will completely transform the dynamics of the world.
Oh, Smithers, one favor. Make the children look like they're mine.
Here's where things get more interesting. In one of the episodes of The Simpsons show, the main characters, Homer and Marge, are seen eating through a feeding tube while wearing a VR headset. Homer had invited Marge to have dinner with him, but upon getting to the restaurant, they found out there was no actual food. Disappointed, Homer didn't hesitate to express his dislike for the use of technology by commenting on the horrible taste of the virtual fudge.
Oh, what a bleak, horrible future we live in!
Marge also wasn't a fan of the virtual cocktail she had to drink through the feeding tube, and by the end of the date, they both swore to never return. The episode not only showcases the use of virtual reality in our daily lives, but also sheds light on the dangers of overusing this technology. If we begin incorporating VR into our daily lives like the characters in the cartoon, do you think it will significantly change our lifestyles? So far, while the use of artificial intelligence in the world today has aided communication and learning, it has also caused relationships to dwindle. Another case which The Simpsons brought to our attention regarding the growth in technology and technology possibly taking over in 2025 centers around teaching AI robots. A few years back, no one would have thought of humans teaching AI robots. But look at everything now. And by the way, it is one of 4 tellings made on the popular American TV show of the 90s, The Simpsons. And it might come true in 2025, so keep a close watch on it. In one of the episodes, Homer and other teachers are asked to teach AI robots. After that, they are capable enough to apply for student loans and go to Ivy League schools in America. Well, scientists are actually teaching AI to do different jobs, as we can see from Elon Musk's latest endeavor, but teaching robots to gain independence from their creators, thereby changing their programming, sounds like a threat to students. Homer didn't seem thrilled about the whole thing, and neither did some citizens of Springfield, but they had to do it anyway. As the episode went on, we could hear Homer complain and voice out his fears of the robots acquiring more knowledge than was required of them, which might lead to them wanting to be superior to their creators, humans. Although in the end, the episode didn't go in that direction. It might just be the show's way of warning us about the dangers of teaching AI robots to be more human. It doesn't end there. We only started hearing about artificial intelligence 4 years ago, but The Simpsons knew about it long before that. Throughout the show, there are multiple references to AI and its impact on the job industry.
These are robots. You will train them, and they will replace you.
Let's take a look at one of them. One notable episode is Treehouse of Horror, which features a segment called The Devil and Homer Simpson. There is a funny take on automation and technology's impact on employment. Homer Simpson, one of the main characters, loses his job because of testing positive for alcohol at work, and Homer's firing led to the uproar over AI and automation. Well, we have already seen a lot of AI software taking over the market, but will this impact our jobs come 2025? Only time will tell. The world will become a chaotic place to live in. For sure, if that happens, and with The Simpsons' high rate of successful predictions, it just might happen this time around. Once again, The Simpsons appear to be miles ahead of us, with their take on hologram technology taking over in 2025. In one of the episodes, Bart to the Future, Bart Simpson receives a hologram message inviting his band to perform at a club.
Hologram for Bart Simpson.
Hey, Dingus, your band can play at my club tonight.
Yes!
It showcases the widespread use of holograms for communication and entertainment purposes. But the big question is, how did The Simpsons come up with the idea of using holograms? The Bart to the Future episode aired way back in 2000, long before Elon Musk and his technological expenditures became a hot topic. So how could they have known technology would be so advanced in the years to come? Will hologram technology eventually replace our mobile phones, just as The Simpsons predicted back in 2000? There is no doubt that we can't be certain about what a cartoon show says concerning real-life events. But with 2025 close by, we will just have to wait and see. According to The Simpsons, 2025 might just be the year the United States and China's conflict becomes a war, and the same year technology gains more authority over the world than humans. Have you ever wondered if a cartoon sitcom could see the future? Look no further than The Simpsons. The Simpsons, America's longest-running sitcom, has become infamous for its strange, accurate predictions of future events. From flying cars to score prediction, this video goes into 20 of these most surprising moments. We'll explore instances where the fictional town of Springfield. Were these predictions simply clever writing with real-world developments? Or is there something more to The Simpsons' prophetic pronouncements? Join us. Pandemic and Murder Hornets combination fans have been claiming it predicted both COVID-19 and the arrival of murder hornets in the United States 27 years in advance.
Dubbed the murder hornet for its powerful sting and the way it decapitates its prey, this is the first time the world's largest hornet has been seen in the U.S.
The dreaded Osaka flu has hit Springfield with over 300 cases now reported.
In a chaotic scene outside a hospital, adding to the show's predictive reputation, another episode gained attention when Tom Hanks announced in mid-March that he and his wife, Rita Wilson, had COVID-19.
Oscar-winning actor Tom Hanks and his wife Rita Wilson have tested positive for coronavirus. In an Instagram post, Hanks says they were in Australia and started feeling sick when they got tested.
In the Simpsons movie from 2007, Hanks delivers the line, "This is Tom." Bill Oakley, who co-wrote Marge in Chains, downplayed the episode's parallels with the COVID-19 pandemic, telling The Hollywood Reporter that it was a cartoonish joke inspired by a flu outbreak in Hong Kong 1968. It's mainly just coincidence because the episodes are so old that history repeats itself, he explained. Most of these episodes are based on things that happened in the 1960s, 1970s, or 1980s that we knew about. Initially reluctant to acknowledge The Simpsons as a predictor of future events, Oakley seems to have come around. He recently conceded to a fan on Twitter, "Okay, fine, I guess we did." Disney buying 20th Century Fox.
It's a massive deal that reshapes the entertainment biz, so Disney is buying a big chunk of Fox.
For $52 billion, Francis, so it's definitely a massive deal here.
The Simpsons strikes again with an eerie glimpse into the future. In the 1998 episode, When You Dish Upon a Star, Homer becomes the personal assistant to Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, who are hiding out in Springfield to escape fame. His antics, including pitching a ludicrous screenplay about a time-traveling killer robot driving instructor and a talking pie, irritate their visitor, Ron Howard. Homer's loose lips about Baldwin and Basinger's whereabouts lead to his dismissal. In retaliation, he creates a mobile museum of their personal belongings. After a high-speed chase that leaves Howard injured, Homer is banned from interacting with celebrities. A month later, Howard is seen pitching Homer's script at 20th Century Fox, humorously depicted as a division of Walt Disney Company, on a massive sign out front.
So doesn't it also mean now that Disney owns The Simpsons?
It does.
I kind of remember that The Simpsons predicted this just a couple years ago.
Take a look at this. This was back in 1998. They had a sign that read 20th Century Fox, a division of Walt Disney. That was in 1998.
This isn't the only nod to Disney in The Simpsons. Mickey Mouse and Goofy rough up Homer in one instance, and another episode features a Disney-themed couch gag. Following the announcement of the Disney-Fox merger, executive producer James L. Brooks humorously sent a greeting from Homer and Bart to Mickey Mouse, Donald Trump presidency. On November 15, 2022, Donald Trump made a significant announcement. He would again be running for president in the 2024 election. This declaration stirred up various reactions, including one that returned to an eerie prediction made by The Simpsons in 2015. In an episode where the Simpson family ventures into the future, a scene features Homer Simpson floating by a sign that reads, Trump 2024. This episode aired long before Trump's actual presidency, adding a layer of intrigue to the show's history of foreseeing real-world events. The Simpsons had already demonstrated its clairvoyant tendencies, particularly in its portrayal of Trump's presidency. In a previous episode, the show depicted Trump leaving behind a dire financial situation, leading to a widespread budget crisis.
Trump would be president.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump.
This portrayal mirrored real-life concerns about the economic impact of Trump's time in office, adding weight to the show's ability to anticipate future scenarios. Siegfried and Roy Tiger attack.
Siegfried and Roy are attacked by tigers, Season 5, Episode 10.
For those unfamiliar with the pre-millennium entertainment scene, Siegfried and Roy were a legendary duo who amazed audiences with their extravagant illusions and majestic tigers. They were a staple in Vegas for decades, a symbol of Sin City glitz. Remember that time The Simpsons made fun of them? In a 1993 episode, Springfield joins the gambling game with a new casino headlined by the flamboyant tiger-taming duo Gunter and Ernst. But their act takes a hilarious turn when their white tiger decides the spotlight belongs to someone else. Them. Well, get this. 10 years later, life imitated art in an unsettling way. During a performance at the Mirage, Roy was attacked by a tiger named Manticore. The big cat went from playful to predatory, latching onto Roy's sleeve and inflicting a severe bite that severed his spine. The reasons behind the attack remain unknown. Roy's partner blamed the trainers, while whispers went around about a cover-up by the hotel to protect their image. Whatever the cause, this incident in 2003 spelt the end for the iconic Siegfried and Roy show, which had captivated audiences for nearly 40 years. I Take Over one episode of The Simpsons paints a picture of a future where Mr. Burns, ever the cost cutter, replaces human workers at the Springfield nuclear power plant with robots. This highlights a genuine concern: AI's potential to automate jobs on a massive scale. The episode even hints at a 99% unemployment rate, raising a conversation about the social and economic implications of widespread job displacement by AI.
In a world where technology is advancing at an unprecedented pace, it seems the fear of AI taking over human jobs is at an all-time high. 82% of working professionals think that they might lose their job to AI.
But The Simpsons takes it a step further. In 1989, imagine creating robot replicas of teachers and scientists so advanced they can even get student loans. While this might seem like harmless fun in the cartoon world, it raises questions about AI's potential to become sophisticated enough to manipulate systems for its own gain. It also taps into our fear of AI encroaching upon uniquely human roles like teaching. Looking at the world of law enforcement, The Simpsons envisioned a future where robots handle police calls. While the episode portrays Brenda as calm, It opens the door to discussing AI and law enforcement. Should robots be patrolling our streets? The Simpsons allow us to consider the implications and potential for unforeseen consequences. The show also explores the idea of robots as companions. In one episode, a character creates a robotic version of his ex-wife, Marge. While companionship is a positive quality, the episode cleverly portrays these robotic companions lacking genuine emotions or kindness. The Shard in London. The Simpsons, notorious for their predictions, might have done it again. Many shows bring their characters to iconic locations, and London is no stranger to these cameos. One Trip by Lisa Simpson, however, holds a curious detail. A flash forward in the 1995 episode shows Lisa on a school trip to London, meeting a fellow student named Hugh Parkfield. Eagle-eyed fans spotted something interesting in the background, a skyscraper peeking over Tower Bridge. This building looks familiar to those acquainted with the real-life Shard, a landmark not built until 2009. Is this an accurate prediction, or just a random building in the background? We may never know for sure. The animators might not have intended such a specific detail. But for fans, it's a fun detail that adds another layer of intrigue to The Simpsons' ability to see into the future. World War II. Remember November 1987? The Simpsons were still fresh, barely in their second season. That's when they unleashed World War II, an episode that even today remains one of their most eerie. The episode plays out as dark satire. In a frenzy, Homer wakes the family with news of World War II erupting. Thankfully, within 18 seconds, everyone's safe in the bomb shelter.
Wake up, everybody! It's World War III! Quick, down to the fallout shelter. The bombs are dropping!
But then the truth hits. It was a false alarm, a cruel joke by Homer. You won't believe what happened next. Could this have been a glimpse into the future? Like other Simpsons predictions, some find it unsettling. Let's rest back on the fear factor. We all need a laugh now. World War China might sound like a future headline, but thankfully it hasn't happened yet. However, the reality is possible. According to Wikipedia, 5 major wars rage on today, from Myanmar's internal conflict to the ongoing battles in Ukraine and Sudan. Then there are the more minor but no less devastating conflicts. Colombia's violence continues, Somalia's civil war takes lives, communal clashes erupt in Nigeria, and Mexico's drug war leaves a pool of bloodshed. Experts argue that considering these numbers, the world is already at war. And with tensions between major powers like the US, Russia, China, and North Korea growing, are we standing on the edge of something more significant? World War II might have been a dark joke in 1987, but in today's world, it's a reminder of the fragile peace we live in. Is this the path to a full-blown world war, or just a conspiracy theory that went out of control, colonizing Mars? In Season 27's The Margian Chronicles, Episode 16, The Simpsons win a spot on a pioneering program, a one-way trip to Mars. This would mark humanity's first Martian residency, a giant leap for humanity. The dream of becoming Mars pioneers takes a big turn for The Simpsons. After a tedious week surviving in a claustrophobic Martian habitat, they learn the shocking truth. It was all a big, elaborate lie. The shiny rocket they trained in? It's just a fancy facade never intended for actual space travel. But hold on. Despite the fake rocket, the ever-resourceful Marge and Lisa eventually reach Mars. The episode cleverly hints that their Martian adventure might become a reality, but not until 2051. Fast forward to real life, and Elon Musk, the visionary SpaceX CEO, has Mars firmly in his sights. His ambition to colonize the red planet and make it humanity's second home is no secret. Here's where things get interesting. In 2020, Musk announced plans to launch the first admittedly crewed mission to Mars by 2026. The Simpsons might have been a few decades off. Who knew time travel wasn't part of the package? But the core idea, a human mission to Mars, aligns perfectly with Musk's vision. While the 2026 target wasn't entirely met, Musk recently revealed that the dream could become reality within 3-4 years. Just try to think about booking a flight to Mars. The possibilities are mind-blowing. Colonizing another planet could be humanity's most monumental achievement. Perhaps by 2051, as The Simpsons predicted, Martian cities will spread across the red landscape. And on that glorious day, the writers can finally declare, with a triumphant point, "We told you so." Flying cars. Do you remember those flying cars from The Simpsons? Well, move over because an honest company called Samsung Sky is making headlines with its Switchblade, the world's first flying sports car.
First announced, the Samsung Sky Switchblade is officially off the ground. This street-legal three-wheeler converts to a 200 miles per hour airplane at the touch of a button.
Hold on a second, though. This isn't quite the Jetson-style hovercraft we might have envisioned. It's more like a car with seriously cool retractable wings. This means it doubles as a plane, but not the kind that defies gravity. The promo video shows a sleek, Batmobile-like car transforming into a miniature aircraft, which is pretty impressive, but it raises a lot of questions. Will you need a pilot's license to take this bad boy car for a ride? How will we manage air traffic with these flying cars weaving in and out? Regulations are a whole other story. And let's be honest, widespread flying cars probably won't happen in 2024. Still, the existence of the Switchblade is exciting. It's a glimpse into a future where our vehicles might have a whole new dimension. The Simpsons might have gotten the flying car concept rolling decades ago, but companies like Samsung Sky are taking it from cartoon to potential reality. The future of transportation might involve taking flight, but there are plenty of issues to iron out before it takes off for everyone. The female president. Is the United States prepared to elect a female president?
For a very brief period today, the nation had its first female president. Kamala Harris assumed the reins of power while President Biden was undergoing a colonoscopy.
The question arises as we consider the nation's readiness to place a woman in its highest office. Historically, women have demonstrated exceptional leadership in politics. Yet the male-dominated political arena has limited the number of women ascending to the corridors of power leading to the White House. Despite this, popular culture often sidesteps the complexities of political discourse. For instance, in the Simpsons episode Bart to the Future, Lisa Simpson becomes the first female president of the United States. In this storyline, she inherits a financially troubled nation due to the mismanagement of her predecessor, President Trump, and introduces a tax increase to stabilize the economy. With the 2024 elections on the horizon, some speculate whether The Simpsons might again foreshadow actual political events. Many believe the show's prediction partially came true with Kamala Harris serving as the first female vice president. But the question remains, are we on the verge of seeing a woman take the Oval Office? Only time will tell. Baby translator. In the 1992 episode Brother, Can You Spare 2 Dimes of The Simpsons, Homer's half-brother Herb creates a baby translator machine. Although this seemed improbable, recent technological advances have made this concept a reality.
A startup called Sounddream created a device that can translate baby cries. The technology uses artificial intelligence and sound recognition to analyze and translate baby language.
A Swiss company called Sounddream introduced the Baby T, a device that converts baby sounds into words.
But now there are several smartphone apps that claim that they can decode your baby's cry for you,
allowing parents to determine if their baby is tired, hungry, or needs a diaper change. This innovation means that you can finally understand what your baby truly needs this year. But did The Simpsons foresee this invention? Or was it just a fortunate coincidence? Kamala Harris outfit. Vice President Kamala Harris earned significant praise for her fashion at the inauguration on Wednesday. But did The Simpsons foresee her attire once more? During her historic swearing-in as the first female vice president, and the first of Black and Indian American descent, Harris wore a purple dress and coat by the celebrated Black designer Christopher John Rogers, complemented by Sergio Hudson shoes. As noted by Women's Wear Daily,
well, this morning we're hearing from 2 fashion designers in Texas who created Vice President Kamala Harris's outfit for the inauguration.
Like going from a colonia in Heidelberg, Texas, like from the fields to the halls of the White House now.
Harris also sported a bespoke pearl necklace created by Puerto Rican designer Wilfredo Rosado. This necklace resembles the one worn by Lisa Simpson, the diligent student from Fox's enduring animated series. Furthermore, Harris's pearls honored her sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, whose members traditionally wear pearl-adorned badges. Virtual reality food. Forget about the Vision Pro, because virtual reality food is here, just as bizarre and potentially delicious as The Simpsons predicted in Season 11's virtual reality food. Marge's VR fudge adventure might seem like pure fantasy, where taste is formed according to her wildest desires. But companies like Aerobanquet's RMX are offering a similar reality, but a pricier one. Just think about dining amongst the stars. Your imagination is the only limit. But will the show's predictions once again come true? Let us know what you think in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also click on the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it.
Buonasera.
As a leader of the Catholic Church, it is expected that the Pope upholds traditional church doctrine. But with Pope Francis, the case is different.
Francis is the first pope from the Americas, the first of his name, and more than any other pope in recent memory, has dedicated his life and ministry to the poor, the peripheral, and the forgotten.
As instead, he has been challenging and reforming these beliefs, an act that has earned him more hate, direct attacks, opposition, and backlash from the leadership of the Church.
Protecting a pope who wants to be accessible to the public is never an easy task. Unlike other world leaders who are very conscious of their threat, the Pope feels that it's part of his mission to be a man of the people, especially this Pope.
Pope Francis, as we all know, is undoubtedly one of the most controversial popes in history who isn't scared of shaking things up in the Church.
His Holiness Pope Francis of the Vatican.
The first pope in history to travel to Bahrain.
قداسة البابا فرانسيس بابا الفاتيكان. His Holiness Pope Francis of the Vatican.
His attempt and approach towards the Church Reformation have been so outlandish that, at some point, his beliefs were questioned, and he was heavily accused of being heretic. Newsflash, he's at it again. As in a recent event, he was found making some really terrifying revelations about Jesus and the Bible. What did he say, and why is it raising this much dust in the Christian community? Let's find out. Pope Francis and the controversies surrounding him. On May 21, 2018, Juan Carlos Cruz, a courageous whistleblower who was a victim of Chile's shocking clergy sex abuse scandal, had the chance to meet with Pope Francis himself at the Vatican.
This is a big story. A whistleblower in Chile's clerical sexual abuse scandal, which was huge, covered up, and disgusting.
During their private conversations, Cruz openly shared with the Pope about his homosexuality. He went further to tell the Holy Father how the bishops back home in Chile had shamefully tried to use his sexual orientation against him in a cruel attempt to discredit his testimony, an act that took a heavy toll, causing him immense pain. But guess what Pope Francis's response to him was? Juan Carlos, that you are gay does not matter. God made you like this and loves you like this, and I don't care. The Pope loves you like this. You have to be happy with who you are.
They had painted me in such a perverse that I was just this And I said, Holy Father, I'm not a saint, but I certainly want to be a good person. And he said, Juan Carlos, God made you like this. God loves you like this. The Pope loves you like this, and you should love yourself.
In yet another remarkable instance, the Pope sent a letter of appreciation to an American nun who has dedicated the past 50 years of her life to ministering to LGBTQ Catholics, and who over 20 years ago was investigated and threatened with being barred from her sacred work for standing up for the LGBTQ community. Are you surprised he did this? Well, you're not the only one who feels this way. Many people, especially the leadership of the Catholic Church, were shocked to their core and left dumbfounded when they heard the report so much that the Vatican refused to give an official statement either to debunk, affirm, or address the statement. But guess what? This is not the first time he's made controversial statements that have shaken the church leadership. But his recent revelation about Jesus and the Bible was so terrifying. However, before revealing what he said, let's give a little backstory about the Pope and his controversiality. While the Catholic Church has had some really notoriously controversial popes in the past, such as Pope Alexander VI, who flouted his sacred vows by taking multiple mistresses and fathering many children, Pope Stephen VI, who went as far as to exhume the corpse of his predecessor, put the dead man on trial, and then have his body mutilated and dumped into the Tiber River. Pope Leo X, whose lavish spending on Renaissance artworks caused great outrage. Pope John XIV, whose adultery transformed the papal palace into a brothel. Pope Sergius III, who purportedly had a rival candidate for the papacy assassinated to secure his election. And Pope Benedict XVI, known for his violent tendencies. The controversy and backlash faced by these earlier pontiffs are nothing compared to those Pope Francis in the relatively short time since he ascended to the throne, and the reasons for that are pretty obvious. Starting from his appointment, everything about him and how he came to power deviated from the norms of the Catholic Church. Before he came into power, the Catholic Church only gave appointments to candidates who were strictly from Europe. But after the resignation of his predecessor, Pope Benedict, the papacy gathered, and for the first time, they picked someone from North America. As if this deviation wasn't enough, they chose someone from a conservative group called the Jesuits. For clarity, the Jesuits are a group of Catholics who are part of a religious order called the Society of Jesus. They were founded a long time ago, in the 16th century, by a man named Saint Ignatius of Loyola. They are known for being very dedicated to education, missionary work, and deep thinking about religious and philosophical ideas. For a long time, the Jesuits were not considered for any leadership position in the Catholic Church, especially that of the Pope. This was because some other Catholic leaders and groups were suspicious of the Jesuits. They worried the Jesuits might try to gain too much power and influence over the Pope and the whole Church. Some people also thought the Jesuits were too focused on academics and book learning, instead of focusing enough on the Church's everyday practical work. Other Catholic groups, like the Franciscans and Dominicans, also didn't want the Jesuits to have too much control. They wanted to ensure the Church's power and influence was spread out, not all going to the Jesuits. But then, in 2013, all of that changed. For the very first time, to the astonishment of Catholics, Francis was chosen to be the Pope. This was really surprising because it broke from the long tradition of not picking Jesuits for this important job. What happened? Well, over time, the Jesuits had become more accepted and respected within the Catholic Church. The group of cardinals who chose the Pope felt that Francis's own personal qualities and leadership style were exactly what the Church needed at that time. So they were willing to look past the old concerns about the Jesuits and chose one of them to be the Pope. But less than a year after his appointment, they started to question their decisions because yes, he did turn things over, but not in the way they wanted it. When Pope Francis took office, he really shook things up both in the Catholic Church and the world government. He started challenging and going against some of the core traditional beliefs that the Church had held for a very long time. One of the first things he went after that riled up the Church the most was his controversial teachings about how the Church should be, particularly focusing on the Church's focus on personal morality and strict theological rules. He criticized the economic systems that allow so much inequality to exist and said the Church needed to care more for the poor and fight for the marginalized people in society. He wanted the Church to be more focused on real-world social justice issues instead of just telling people how to live their personal lives. Not stopping there, his next point of interest was with issues that were bothering the environment. Previous popes hadn't really cared about things like climate change and protecting the planet, but when Francis came in, he issued a significant document calling on the Church to be a leader in environmental stewardship, saying that the Church had a responsibility to speak up and take action on these critical issues. To the dismay of the Church leadership, he also worked to decentralize power and authority within the Church. Instead of everything being tightly controlled from the top, he gave more autonomy and decision-making power to local bishops around the world, creating a big change from the very hierarchical and centralized way the Church had operated for a long time. It was a significant shift that surprised many people in the Church. Increasing the tension, in a speech he gave during Christmas in 2014, he said some really important things that went against how the Church had traditionally operated. One of the problems he tackled was something called clericalism. Clericalism is when the priests and other clergy in the Church start to think they are more important and powerful than everyone else. Displeased, Pope Francis said this is like a disease, like leprosy, that is really hurting the church. Then, he went on telling the church leaders, especially those working in the Vatican, to get rid of the 14 bad habits and temptations, like feeling indispensable, wanting to be rich, living a double life, and even forgetting about God. His reason for saying this was born out of his desire to see a massive change in the church, as he wanted her to be more focused on serving the people instead of the leaders' power and wealth. Doubling down on that, he dropped a bombshell when he said he saw the church like an upside-down pyramid, with the regular members, the regular people, as the most important, and the Pope and bishops as the less important, as he wanted the church to be a place where everyone works together, not just the leaders telling everyone what to do. In another instance that bewildered the church leaders, he asked that priests give communion to women who had previously had abortions. Then, the most shocking was when he said trying to convert everyone to Catholicism wasn't right, that there is nothing like a particular Catholic God, but that there's only one true God, a sermon that went against Catholics' age-long idea that they are the one and only true religion. This statement, in particular, got the church leadership so riled up that some even had to make public statements. But that's not all. A while back, whispers started circulating about a bold claim made by Pope Francis. According to reports from Eugenio Scalfari, an atheist who just so happens to be a friend of the Pope from an interview the Pope had granted to the Italian newspaper, La Repubblica, Pope Francis had said that one day, humanity might just vanish and replace new beings. Upon release, the statement sparked wide controversy and confusion. Then, sometime later, Scalfari revisited the topic, reminded that though he had spoken about the eventual end of the human species, an act which will be followed by God creating creatures to take our place, but he never addressed what would become of the souls of sinful individuals, who are destined to suffer for eternity in hellfire. In response, the Pope allegedly stated that those who repent and seek forgiveness from God would not face any punishment at all. Instead, they would be granted pardon and welcomed into the heavenly fold. But for those unwilling or unable to repent, the Pope believed they would simply cease to exist, as in his view, there is no actual hell, only the complete disappearance of unrepentant souls. When this statement was released, the Vatican quickly refuted the accuracy of Scalfari's account, insisting that the Pope's words had been poorly transcribed and should not be taken as his verbatim beliefs. But that's not all he did to shake up the Catholic Church's long-standing beliefs. Let's dig deeper to see how he stepped on the toes of the powers that be in the Church. In another press release, this same Scalfari said the Pope bluntly told him that Jesus of Nazareth wasn't God at all, and not a man. The Church was willing to overlook the Pope's controversial statements and his reforms, but when he released a letter titled Amoris Laetitia in 2016, they felt they had had enough. That was when hell broke loose. This document, which was read in a gathering of bishops, tackled a topic that's always been a bit tricky: the role of the Church in supporting families, especially those that might not fit the traditional mold. In a footnote, number 351 in the 8th chapter of the document, Pope Francis acknowledged that in some instances, people living in irregular situations, such as those who are divorced and remarried, may still be living in God's grace and could potentially be granted access to the sacraments, including the Eucharist. Now, you might think, what's the big deal? Shouldn't the Church just be there for everyone? Well, the Catholic Church has long had very strict rules about who can and can't receive certain sacraments, like communion, and the Pope, in his wisdom, suggested that perhaps those rules could be a bit more flexible, especially when it comes to divorced and remarried couples. This move was seen by some as a significant departure from the Church's traditional stance, which had strictly prohibited communion for those in irregular marital situations. The Pope's argument was rooted in a nuanced understanding of the human condition. He acknowledged that not every situation is black and white, and that pastors must approach these cases with empathy, discernment, and a desire to help people grow in God's grace, rather than simply applying rigid moral laws. Before we would know it, the Pope's words were being picked apart, analyzed, and scrutinized like never before. 4 highly placed leaders even sent him a letter asking him to back up his stance with a more substantial reason or source. But he left the letter unanswered, and that was when they took their concerns public, turning the debate into a bitter, protracted struggle. Until then, even his supporters had been willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, viewing him as essentially a kindred spirit, if a bit unorthodox. But Amoris Laetitia shattered that illusion, and at this moment, it became a matter of gone were the days when they could simply claim Francis as one of their own. At this point, the battle lines were drawn, with the Pope firmly on the side of a more merciful, nuanced approach to complex moral issues, and his critics feeling that he betrayed the Catholic faith. Things escalated to the point where a group of well-known Catholic figures, including scholars and theologians, wrote a petition accusing the Pope of heresy, a term for a grave violation of church doctrine. They even went as far as calling on bishops to formally admonish the Pope and even remove him from office if he did not repent. Upon releasing the letter, within just 12 hours of its release, over 1,500 more people had signed supporting their claims against the Pope. This was the most challenging time for the Pope, but being a man with a thick skin, he continued his routine until his recent unsettling revelation about Jesus and the Bible. Did he drop another controversial bombshell as usual in his character? You wouldn't want to miss this part, so let's find out. Pope Francis's terrifying truth about Jesus and the Bible. In an address he sent to the Pontifical Biblical Commission that left them dumbfounded on a meeting they held from May 2nd, 6 to talk about the biblical truths and inspiration, the Pope said we couldn't just see the Bible as the Word of God in a very strict, literal way. Instead, we need to look at the Bible as a complete book where all the different parts connect to and inform each other. The Pope said we can't just take one sentence or phrase from the Bible and say, this is absolutely true and literally correct. Instead, we have to look at the bigger picture and the overall message and meaning that the Bible is trying to convey. According to him, when you look at it that way, the whole thing starts to make more sense, and you can really understand the meaning behind it. The Pope criticized 2 different ways people sometimes look at the Bible. On one side, he said some people just treat the Bible like any old book without realizing how special and important it is. On the other hand, he said some people think every single word was directly given to us by God, and that everything in the Bible is literally true, which is how the Catholic Church interprets the Bible. The Pope didn't agree with either of those views. Instead, we have to understand that the Bible was written by human authors in particular historical and cultural contexts. So if we must grasp the true meaning and significance of God's word in the Bible, we have to interpret it in a more thoughtful, nuanced way, looking at the whole rather than just taking little bits of it and using them however we want. That was not all. In another recent sermon portrayed Jesus as a humble person who was deeply familiar with the harsh struggles that regular people faced back then. Using this perspective of Jesus, Francis encouraged Christians to follow his example by reaching out and helping the people around them, especially those with a hard time. Not only is he a controversial person, but he is one person who also walked the talk, so he seizes every opportunity to practice what he preached. One striking example occurred when the Pope visited a prison. Even though he had just recovered from an illness, the Pope went straight to lead a mass and wash the feet of 12 young inmates. These inmates came from all different backgrounds, diverse nationalities, races, and even religions like Islam. As the Pope performed this symbolic foot-washing ritual, he gave an important sermon explaining that foot-washing was not just an old tradition, but a way of showing how people should care for one another. Going further, he plainly stated that seeing so much injustice in the world was terrible, with people taking advantage of others and many trapped without any way out. The Pope said that if anyone had avoided such hardship, it was not because they were better, but because of God's grace. While still there, he told them something profound, that every single one of us can slip up, that we are all sinners, but that the awareness that we can all make mistakes is what gives us our dignity. He added that Jesus wants us this way, which is why he wanted to wash the feet of his disciples, to save and serve them. To back this up, the Pope quoted Jesus, saying that our lives will be wonderful if we listen to his lessons. That's because we would rush to help each other instead of taking advantage like selfish people do. The Pope preached that helping others and lending a hand comes from a noble heart. This is what Jesus wants to teach us today. He further added that we may have done so much evil that we might think he, the Pope, would condemn us if only he knew the filthy things we did. But that shouldn't scare us because Jesus knows everything about us already. He is not afraid of our weaknesses and loves us just as we are, as he had already paid for your sins. And we only need to allow him to walk beside us and take our hand so that life will not be too hard for us. In essence, the Pope was saying that Jesus doesn't judge us for our failures. He simply wants to accompany us, ease our burdens, and love us unconditionally, even in our imperfect state. Whether you're religious or not, these, without a doubt, were truly uplifting and inclusive teachings about embracing our shared flaws while striving for goodness. As if that wasn't enough, later, at a Mass in St. Peter's Square, the Pope reiterated and expanded upon this message, preaching that Christians must pray for the ability to look at others with the same boundless mercy and caring that Jesus shows us. The Pope plainly stated that no one is perfect. We all sin and make mistakes. He said that no one could be saved if the Lord judged solely on our weaknesses. To lay credence to his sermon, he referenced the Gospel of John, showing how God sent his Son not to condemn the world, but to save it. In that light, he explained how Jesus, in his encounters with people in the Gospels, saw their entire authentic selves, the good, the bad, and the ugly. As he put it, there were no secrets before Jesus because he read their hearts. However, the crucial point the Pope emphasized was that Jesus was not looking to shame or harshly judge. Instead, he saw the whole person, not to point fingers, but to embrace our lives, free us from sin, and save us. Jesus, the Pope said, has no interest in putting us on trial or condemning us. Instead, he simply wants none of us to be lost. The Pope then described the Lord's view of us as a gentle, friendly lamp that allows us to see the good in ourselves while still recognizing our flaws so that we can grow with his grace. However, the Pope then admitted that we often fail to treat each other with that same compassionate, merciful lens. Instead, we frequently condemn others, speaking badly and gossiping against them. He rounded up by saying being a Christian goes beyond just going to church. It is mostly about living out the values of the gospel in our daily lives and showing kindness and solidarity with those in need through charity, service, and advocacy. After this, he asked that God give us this merciful gaze so that we could look at others as he looked at us. What do you think the church cardinals were right by accusing him of heresy? What do you think of his approach towards Christianity and the Bible? We'll be waiting to hear from you in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and share. See you soon.
He was a terrific athlete. He was explosively fast.
He was the Einstein of martial art.
Bruce Lee, the world-renowned martial artist and filmmaker, passed away just before midnight.
So Bruce Lee was killed by idiosyncratic reaction to one tablet.
Yep, sadly.
Bruce Lee, who was known to be a global icon in his days as a martial artist, left an impact that can never be forgotten on both the world of martial arts and Chinese culture. His death at a very young age left so much to be desired. Now, after 51 years, his tomb was said to have been opened, raising questions about his death and burial. Why was his tomb opened after 51 years? Join us as we uncover hidden secrets about his final resting place, Bruce Lee's early life and career. The news of Bruce Lee's opened tomb was said to have sparked a lot of reactions from all over the world, to the extent that people began to visit his tomb in remembrance of him. The tomb was said to have brought back great memories of this great martial artist. What could have prompted the opening of his tomb after a very long time? Brace up for far more exciting revelations about the reported event. Before we dive deep into the account of his opened tomb, let's take a quick look at his early life and career that led up to his fame, and why the world is so invested in news about his opened tomb. Bruce Lee, who was born on November 27, 1940, was reported to be a Hong Kong and American martial artist, filmmaker, and philosopher. He was also known to be the founder of Jeet Kune Do, a martial arts philosophy, which was formed from his experience in unarmed fighting, self-defense, as well as eclectic, Zen Buddhist and Taoist philosophies. He had a career which lasted in Hong Kong and the United States. Bruce Lee was reported to be the first global Chinese film star and one of the most influential artists in the history of filmmaking. Bruce Lee, who was known for his roles in 5 feature-length martial arts films, was recognized as the one who helped to increase the popularity of martial arts films in the 1970s and in Hong Kong. Raised in British Hong Kong, Bruce Lee was said to have been introduced to the Hong Kong film industry at a very tender age by his father. His early martial arts experience included Wing Chun, Tai Chi, and frequent street fighting.
I have several questions. What is the highest technique you hope to achieve?
To have no technique.
Very good. What are your thoughts when facing an opponent?
There is no opponent.
And why is that?
Because the word I does not exist.
Bruce Lee was said to have moved to Seattle, where he registered at the University of Washington in 1961. He was reported to have started making money during this time in the United States, when he began to teach martial arts, even though he has always had the interest of having a career in acting. He was said to have operated out of his home when he started his first martial arts school. Reports have it that he added a second martial arts school in Oakland, California, which drew significant attention at the 1964 Long Beach International Karate Championships of California, which was made by demonstrations and speaking. He was later said to have moved to Los Angeles, where he taught some of his then students, which included Chuck Norris, Sharon Tate, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Cultural differences was said to have hindered him from fully expressing himself after he played Kato in The Green Hornet, which was said to have introduced him to the American audiences. After he returned to Hong Kong in 1971, Bruce Lee was said to have landed his first leading role in The Big Boss, directed by Lo Wei. A year later, he was said to have starred in Fist of Fury, in which he portrayed Chen Zhen. He was said to have written and directed a film titled The Way of the Dragon. He was also said to have starred in the U.S.-Hong Kong co-production Enter the Dragon in 1971 and The Game of Death in 1978. His Hollywood-produced films, all of which recorded great success, were said to have elevated Hong Kong martial arts films to a new level of popularity and fame, which sparked a surge of Western interests in Chinese martial arts. The direction and tone of his films, which included their fight choreography and diversification, was said to have dramatically influenced and changed martial arts films worldwide. Kung Fu films was said to have displaced the wuxia film genre fights. His fights were said to have been choreographed more realistically, discarding fantasy elements for real-world fights. His characteristics as a male lead was said to have gone from being a hero to that one that embodied the notion of masculinity. Bruce Lee was reported to have won several awards, which included the Golden Horse Awards for the Best Mandarin Film and Fist of Fury Special Jury Award in 1972, Hong Kong Film Award for Lifetime Achievement in 1994, Star of the Century Awards in 2004, the Asian Awards Founder Award in 2013, among others. His fame was said to have crossed borders beyond the European scene before his shocking demise. The truth that will be revealed next might be the most shocking revelation you have ever heard. His shocking death claims. On May 10, 1973, Bruce Lee was said to have collapsed during an automated dialogues replacement session for Enter the Dragon at Orange Sky Golden Harvest Film Studio in Hong Kong. He was reported to have suffered from epileptic seizures and headaches. He was said to have been rushed to the hospital, where the doctors diagnosed him of cerebral edema. They were said to be able to reduce the swelling through the administration of mannitol. On July 20, 1974, Bruce Lee was said to be in Hong Kong for a dinner with actor George Lazenby, with whom he was set to make a film. According to a report, Bruce Lee was said to have met with producer Raymond Chow at 2 p.m. at home to discuss the making of the film Game of Death. They were said to have worked until 4 p.m. and drove together to the home of Bruce Lee's colleague, Betty Ting Pei, a Taiwanese actress. The three of them were said to have gone over the script at Ting's home before Chow left to attend a dinner meeting. Bruce Lee was said to have taken a nap. It was reported that Bruce Lee was also expected to show up at the dinner but didn't show up. Having waited for a while, Chow decided to check up on Bruce Lee, but he was unable to wake Lee up. A doctor was said to have been summoned. He was reported to have spent 10 minutes attempting to revive Bruce Lee before he sent him by an ambulance to Queen Elizabeth's Hospital.
He got to the hospital and I saw him laying there. And I saw them do a big injection of something right into his heart.
Bruce Lee was reported dead on arrival at the hospital.